Thank you, Ali. Before we begin, first, everyone, thank you very much for taking the time to join us today and to go through this webinar with us. I know some of you may have attended the Phase 1 webinar, or I believe we posted the webinar in the portal, so you may have already reviewed that. But for those of you who didn't get a chance to see the Phase 1, before we launch into our products in any depth, I want to do just a brief recap to kind of go over what we talked about last time to give better context to what we will talk about today. So the one thing that I hope you leave with today from the approach that we at Gemalto bring is this idea that we're trying to take customers away from their current siloed approach to security, specifically encryption, and that by using our portfolio, we'll move them to a place that is more unified, more centralized, and that's ultimately consolidated, because we feel that when security and encryption is consolidated, the customer benefits from better security all the way around. It's easier, there's less opportunity for error and oversight, and it's just cheaper and more efficient in the long run. And to do that, we start with a very basic and fundamental concept. And with encryption, or data security, we talk about encryption or tokenization. We first focus on protecting the data, right? So by using encryption or tokenization, we're attaching security directly to the data itself. So it doesn't matter if you have firewalls, if you have intrusion detection products, the data itself is always secured regardless of whatever you have around that. And to use encryption or use tokenization, ultimately you need a specific algorithm or a key that participates in the transformation of the data to something protected. Well, you take that key and put it in a special safe or a box, or what we call an enterprise key manager, to keep it safe. And so, I always like to come back to the idea of using a car valet. So, you use a car valet, you park your car, you lock it with a key, and then you walk over to the valet and you leave the key with that valet, with that person. And that staff person would put the key in a box with a bunch of other keys, and he'll sit there and watch that box. Well, the concept is the same, right? You would never lock your car and leave the car or the key on the hood or on the roof where someone could take it in and open up the vehicle. You're separating the two functions, which creates another layer of security, extra obstacles for a hacker or a privileged user to have to go through to get access to your data. And so we focus on separating data security and key management. And so with that in mind, we start with all of our customers. Inevitably, our sales engineers go into a first meeting with a customer, and they start by locating where the data resides, where specifically the sensitive data resides, where it's credit card numbers or social security numbers, healthcare information, or whatever is relevant to your customer. You have to understand where the data is before you can secure it. And this may sound like a very simple and elementary exercise, but 99% of the time, without fail, our sales engineers discover or help the customers discover data in places that they didn't anticipate. And so first we suggest do a full mapping of the environment, understand the data flow, where it originates, all of its touch points, where it ends up, and then from there you can decide the best place to apply security. And then when you do that, use encryption. Encryption is a fundamental security tool. It protects data. And then once you do that, you can manage the encryption keys, which really is your long-term ongoing management of the security strategy. And so this is why we offer our portfolio, and this is what we'll go into today. We offer a range of products that work with an entire ecosystem of products. We've been doing this for over 30 years. So with that, we have a tremendous amount of expertise. We've developed these products really in response over that time to customer needs. We understand this. And so there's a really intricate yet broad ecosystem of use cases that your customers can benefit from. So we're going to go into 4 of these products today, and we'll have future webinars on ProtectV and the rest of our ecosystem. But starting to dive into the products, let's start with the product that we call SafeNet ProtectFile. And this is our file system level encryption solution. And so we call this a transparent solution because it operates in such a way that your user really sees no change to their experience. What this product really is and does, it's a kernel that interacts at the operating system level. And all your customer has to do is define which folders or network share paths should be encrypted. And then anything that is saved into those folders, into those network shares, will be encrypted as it's written to disk. So the beauty of this product, and it really is one of our most versatile products in the portfolio, is that your customers don't have to re-architect anything. They don't have to change a database. They don't have to change an application. And as data is written to disk, it's encrypted. And so that data can be backed up into the cloud. It can be backed up into offsite storage. It doesn't matter what that data looks like. It will always stay encrypted until your customer decides otherwise. And because it operates at the operating system level on a server, it can work on direct access storage, network attached storage, storage area networks if your customers are most interested in just securing straight data rest for storage. We offer access, policy-based access controls that sit locally on the machine. So even if the product doesn't interact with the key manager because a connection is lost, the extra layers of security around the encryption stay intact. And so you really get a robust encryption solution to keep only authorized users in control of the data. With the advent of the cloud, where we've developed automation features and chef recipes, so if your customers are looking to move their data or their operations into virtualized environments, and they're interested in rapid scaling up and down, encryption can scale with it. There isn't any special manual feature that they need to enable or task that they have to undertake. They can make it automatic as they go up and down. And we do all of this with logging and auditing capabilities that are native both to the software but also to the encryption key manager. And it's important to note as we talk about these products that all of them work with our enterprise key manager, SafeNet KeySecure, which we'll talk about through the rest of this presentation. And so part of what makes this solution so powerful for your customers is because it integrates at the operating system level, anything that is above this bottom row on the presentation is secure. So any file, any folder that your customer wants, they can encrypt. If they need to encrypt a database, say they have a PCI regulation that they need to, or they need to comply with PCI DSS, but they don't want to have to encrypt specific columns in a database, or they just don't have the means to do it, they can put that database in a folder or whatever share that database sits on. They can encrypt the entire thing, and they're fine. If they've got a MongoDB or Couchbase database, if they are running Hadoop, if they are more concerned about securing their ERP or their CRM or just their email, all of these solutions work with ProtectFile. It's a very simple approach, it's a very elegant approach, but it has far-reaching impact in the number of pieces of data that it can secure simply by changing which pathways are to be encrypted and not. And so kind of talking about our ecosystem, really when your customers think about what they need secured, just know that SafeNet ProtectFile is the piece of our portfolio that has the broadest adoption and really can fit most places that your customer will need. So if they have a basic encryption problem that they need solved, or even a complex encryption problem that they need solved, chances are ProtectFile is really a very easy way to address it with very minimal performance impacts overall. So that's the file system level solution. If that is our most versatile, I like to think of this one as being basically our Swiss Army knife tool. SafeNet ProtectApp is our application level encryption solution. And again, it's transparent to the end user. so they can go about their normal business with their application, and they'll never see encryption taking place. And really all ProtectApp is a set of APIs that call our encryption libraries. And as data is being generated within the application, it's being automatically encrypted. The API call gets the encryption key, the application does the encryption, and then that data travels the rest of its life cycle fully secured. So if we think about this, the distance that it goes once it leaves the application to a database or to the file, or if it's moved into the cloud, it doesn't matter. That data is always encrypted, it's always secure, so whatever happens with the rest of the security world, that data is safe. This is probably our longest developed product, the one we've had the longest of all of our products, are the most mature. And so we offer a range of development libraries from Java, C, C++, .NET. We have an XML interface where you can use this product for key management. So actually, a lot of developers will take this product to serve as a bridge between an application and another environment that they specifically want to use. So it's very flexible. Your customers can develop on top of it. If they feel comfortable with coding and application changes, this is a great tool. And even if they're uncomfortable with that, we do offer a bunch of sample code. We offer software development kits, and we can even lend our expertise to help your customers implement this into their applications without breaking anything and without having to re-architect their environments. And the last thing I want to say about ProtectApp really is the beauty about ProtectApp is that often it's the solution to problems that your customers haven't even realized yet. And I think of it like this. People will say, I need to secure credit cards in my database, but I don't want to encrypt the entire database. Well, instead of worrying about the specific column of numbers in the database to encrypt, it's entirely possible to use ProtectApp through the API to secure all of that data before it's actually saved into that specific column. And by doing so, your customers don't have to re-architect the database. You're all of a sudden seeing the complex problem at the outset and making it actually a really simple problem to solve. So when we think about this, really this is the tool that solves the greatest number of use cases in the most elegant manner. And it's pretty easy. So the APIs, everything occurs, all the calls occur on the application server. As I mentioned, they reach out, they get the encryption key from the library, they secure the data, and then they'll send that data off to its final destination. And the example on the screen, that's just a simple database server. So those are the first two. Our third product in this portfolio, one that kind of sets us apart from some of our competitors, is our column-level database encryption solution, what we call ProtectDB. ProtectDB is an agent that sits on the database, and much like ProtectFile, it defines which columns within the database should be encrypted. So it's important to note that this only works with structured data in Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, and IBM DB2 databases. But it's actually a really robust solution because it allows your customers to have additional policy-based access controls that also live locally on the database server. So again, if there's any disruption with the key manager, your customer still benefits from the full level of protection. And most importantly, the encryption key does not sit with the database. We store that off in the key manager. And why this is important is that a lot of your customers may consider buying the encryption that comes native with these databases, whether it's Oracle TDE or the Microsoft and IBM versions. And a lot of these solutions will keep the encryption key within the database, which is not a best practice. Simply put, if we go back to the car example, that's like locking your car and then leaving your key right on top of the hood. If someone who has unauthorized access as a hacker or as a privileged user can get to the database, chances are they'll get to the key that would unlock the database and all of its valuable information. And while this will encrypt a specific column, it does not require changes to the database, which is actually one of the really powerful things about this solution. And we'll get to that a little bit more in a second. So when we think about ProtectDB, imagine the user experience. So it starts all the way on the left with your individual at a laptop or a desktop, and they're pulling their data out of the database. They need customer information, and so that data goes to the application server, and it goes to the database server, and it's completely in the clear. It's readable to anyone at that moment. But as that data is being saved to the database, it's being transformed. It's being encrypted. Again, the user, when they're authorized and they're using this, they don't see any change in their habits. But as that data is stored and saved, it's being encrypted. And so any backups of that database, if that database is being used in the cloud, is entirely secure. But what your customer sees, and really can't stress this enough, is no change to their experience. So if you look at the bottom row, an authorized user would see the same screen that they always see. They're seeing the account number or the credit card number or the social security number of the customer that they're serving. But if you look at the row above, all ProtectDB has done is added an extra column at the end with the encrypted values. And so anytime an unauthorized user would go to look for the information they want to steal, they'll find nothing. But if an authorized user goes to that same information, they'll, on the back end, unbeknownst to them, they'll be redirected for the encrypted information, and the encrypted information will be displayed to the authorized user, but in clear text. So they can go about their normal operations without ever knowing that the data isn't encrypted on the back end. So the last solution that I'd like to present is what we call SafeNet tokenization. And this is our application level tokenization service. So if you think about it, much like ProtectApp, this integrates at the application level via, again, an API. So as data is created, specifically structured data, so credit card numbers and the like, as it's created, that value is replaced by another value of the same length and format, and the surrogate value, or the token that was created, is what gets passed back and forth. The beauty of this solution is that it's used really to remove systems from the scope of compliance. So instead of worrying about your database and all of the places it's backed up with credit card information, if those databases have tokens instead, you don't have to worry about demonstrating compliance. Instead, you just have one database with what we call the token vault, which is the place where the token is combined with the value you're protecting. Your customers only have to keep that one thing safe. They can encrypt that as well. And so if you think of your customers, whoever you're talking to in your patch, they may have multiple databases, they may have multiple systems. If they can get rid of all of those from the scope of their compliance and worry only about one, it makes their lives a lot easier. And much like using something like ProtectDB or some of our other solutions, they can use this without making any changes to their database, without any changes to their file layouts, or really any changes to their applications. It's a much simpler solution to deploy than a lot of others, yet it has a powerful impact. And for those of you who are familiar with tokenization in this space, you may be familiar with a concept known as vaultless tokenization or stateless tokenization. Well, that's a feature that we will also be including in this product in our December release. So we'll have more information on that in the future, but just keep an eye out for those and stay tuned. So now that we've seen the entire portfolio, this is why we do the portfolio approach. And I like to think of these use cases because I think they really give a good example of why we feel the portfolio approach is best, because we feel like we can offer the right tool for the right job. And so say you have a customer who needs to secure, again, that's a great example, credit card numbers in a database, in a SQL database, Oracle, Microsoft SQL, doesn't matter. It's a relational database. Well, with our portfolio approach, we actually offer 5 different ways to do that. So your customer may have specific constraints. Maybe there's an architecture issue. Maybe they're concerned about a performance issue. Maybe they have already purchased encryption for their database from the vendor, at which point we can offer key management. I didn't go into that in this presentation, but we'll do that in the future. We offer a TDE, or Transparent Data Encryption license, where we can even just handle the encryption keys for encryption that your customers have purchased elsewhere. So instead of having a one-size-fits-all approach, one tool that's supposed to solve everything, we can offer a range of tools that best fits your customer's need. And the same goes for, say, a NoSQL database. If they're looking at MongoDB or Couchbase or HBase in Hadoop, we offer 3 different solutions to solve their problem. If they have just a simple, straight encryption challenge for data at rest, we offer 2 ways to do that as well. And all of these solutions, the entire portfolio, is built on top of our key management appliance. So it doesn't matter how many obstacles your customer's facing, how many regulations they need to address, whatever their use cases are, it doesn't matter how many they have, they can manage all of those from one place. And so what they get is an entire data protection framework. It's built, it's built on our key manager, SafeNet KeySecure. And from that one point, they get our entire portfolio of solutions that works on premises and in the cloud. These solutions are cloud agnostic, so it doesn't matter what data cloud service provider they use, whatever the data center, they can use these products. And they can solve encryption challenges in any of these points of protection. If they have big data concerns, if they are simply looking to encrypt their storage or their databases, they can use this portfolio for any of them from an entire ecosystem of partners. And all of that is really built on the partnerships that we've cultivated over 30 years of being in business. And so from your end, as our channel partners, as we start moving up this gradient all the way to the top row, that's additional revenue for you. Those are additional use cases that your customers are going to have to solve. This is a greater scope that we can address within their data center, because chances are they're using combinations of all of these solutions from all of these vendors, and yet they can manage all of that from one central point, our SafeNet KeySecure. And so the value that we think you can deliver to your customers are the following. And first and foremost, it's what your customers are looking for, is better security. We feel like our portfolio approach can offer your customers better security because we make security easier. Not only do we attach security directly to the data itself, so it doesn't matter if they're breached or not, we make the ongoing management of that simpler and streamlined from one place using the industry's leading key management appliance. I haven't really dove into that because we'll have other webinars, but we have the most robust key manager on the market with the largest ecosystem of partners. So really this is a mature product that has some of the highest levels of certification for commercially available products that your customers can benefit from. And they can do that in a way that also saves them money in the long run. And we'll get into this a little more with one of the use cases, one of our sample customers. But imagine if your customers all of a sudden had 1 or 2 appliances to buy and manage, as opposed to, say, 3, 4, 5, or 6 clusters of appliances that they have to manage. Imagine if all the time and money that your customers could save if they had 1 or 2 people responsible for an entire security deployment instead of entire teams. And so what our customers come back and tell us is that they save money, yes, on some of the upfront investment because they don't have the same footprints in their data center, but really where they save money is the time and effort and ongoing management and they're able to redeploy resources to other places that provide greater value to the organization, other value that can really help and benefit the bottom line. And part of what drives that bottom line is our ability to help these customers streamline collaboration. And so what we're finding from our customers, especially as they're adopting the centralized service model of encryption key management, is that by breaking down silos, it's easier for data to flow across the organization. And as data flows more easily across the organization, teams are coming together in ways that they otherwise couldn't, or people didn't really anticipate, and they're creating new projects. They're finding ways to deliver new value to their customers. And so by breaking down these barriers, we're not, again, only saving money or saving effort, but we're making business operate more efficiently and better. And that's leading to faster innovation. One of the customers that I'll talk about in a second has actually noticed that their teams are coming together and making things faster because they're being able to pull things off the shelf. Instead of having security teams or technical teams building their solutions from the ground up because they have the technical capability, they're putting that ability to use by taking things that are already working and then building on top of them. So standardizing across the board is creating a better toolbox within the organization, but also a better foundation from which other projects can grow and develop within the organization. So that's all well and important for the customer, but we want to make sure that you benefit from this too. And so really there's a real revenue opportunity for you. And a lot of this also kind of goes back to that data framework. As we move up the different levels, the greater amount of value that you can derive for yourself. So if we think of a basic deal of, say, 100 file servers within the organization, and keep in mind that 100 file servers could also be 100 virtual machines. These don't have to be physical appliances. They can be virtual appliances that are being run in AWS or Microsoft Azure or IBM SoftLayer. A basic deal of 100 of those would include our key manager, 2 of them because we recommend high availability, 100 licenses of our SafeNet ProtectFile solution, and then 1 year of maintenance, and that gets you close to $340,000 US off of your quota, which is not an unsubstantial sum. And this is just an entry point. Once you get into these accounts, what we're finding is that there's a lot of upsell opportunities as from the key manager, additional licenses are being added to secure different databases and applications and so on and so forth. Another example, because on top of perpetual licenses, we also offer subscriptions. Say you had a customer who needed to secure 200 applications or some variation thereof. Well, again, it would start with the same key management bundle. The K460 that we have listed here is our high performance version. And then 1 year subscription at 200 licenses altogether comes out to about $380,000 American. And if you look at the subscription, nearly $300,000 of that is recurring revenue. That's on a yearly basis. And so, yes, this revenue will depend on the size of the enterprise or the organization within your territory, but it's pretty clear from here that this is revenue that can scale very quickly, which really benefits you in the end. So this is what we're trying to pitch to you, as well as trying to make you feel more comfortable in front of the customer, is that for as much value as there is for the customer in the security solutions, we're hoping that you find something really attractive in this and useful in this as well as you try to relieve your quotas. So, all of that said, how do you get into an account and start the conversation? So we've got some questions here that usually we find help jumpstart the conversation. And again, this presentation will be made available in the partner portal, so you can come back to this if you don't get all of the questions right away. But usually it starts by engaging the organization and understanding what their initiatives or what their priorities are. One of the use cases we'll explore in a second had a mandate from the board of directors that they needed to secure all of their data. But a lot of organizations find that their biggest driver really is compliance. Regulations are come into effect, and they need to make sure that data is safe. And so understanding that will inform the rest of the conversation. So once that happens, then you can understand how the organization operates, what the environment is like, how do they store their data, what kind of data do they need to protect, how are they doing it, are they looking at moving to the clouds, is it public or is it private? Once you understand that context, then you can really start delving into features and feeds. So what applications or databases are they using? Are they using key management and encryption already, and if so, from which vendors? And then at that point, you can really identify what are the challenges that they need to solve. Once they do that, you can understand, are they trying to break down silos? Are there types of data that fall outside of their current solutions? And then you can offer the right tool from our portfolio. So, not to lecture you on how to sell. I'm sure all of you have greater expertise on this front than I do. But as we talk to our salespeople internally, we're finding that conversations generally proceed along these paths. And these are some of the questions that they found are helpful. So if any of these look particularly useful to you, please come back to the presentation in the portal, and you'll be able to pull these as you need. So let's put all of this in practice. What are we seeing from our customers? What were their drivers, and why is it important? And so both of these are American examples. We don't have, well, that's not true. We have customers in Asia Pacific. I just haven't developed the use cases for them yet, but I can make those available anonymized in the partner portal as well for you to use. A lot of our customers don't like to share the name of the encryption solution they're using for obvious reasons, but we'll have some slideware available for you in the portal to use for your customers to know that we have customers who use this in the field and what they're finding. But this example is a Fortune 500 insurance company here in the US that had a mandate set by its board of directors to encrypt all of its customer information. And so this wasn't about compliance. This was really about being proactive and applying the best security they could. This happened pretty shortly after American retailer Target was breached here in the US. Really put at risk a lot of customer information and put on notice a lot of large enterprises. And so what they desired was a centralized, scalable key management solution that offered them all of the encryption that they needed but would grow with their organization. They used our basic key manager and then built application, column level, and file system level encryption on top of that for the various components within their organization. To us, the deal size was about $4.5 million American. So you can see, this is a large organization, but again, the revenue added up pretty quickly once we start to consider all of the licenses that are needed to make this work. Another success that we had was with a global payment processor. They have over 2 billion credit cards and payment cards in circulation worldwide. And they've been a long-time customer of ours to begin with, but they really deepened our relationship with us because they needed a way to centralize encryption across the entire organization. They were finding that they had so many silos, a lot of which were from homegrown solutions that were built by their own technical teams, and they needed to tear these down because they were impeding their ability to collaborate across the organization. So again, we standardized on our key manager and then started using our solutions to kind of encrypt in new places, but also provide encryption key management for a lot of the solution they'd already built. So it wasn't necessarily a question of undoing all of the work that they had invested in, but to use that on top of all of these other services that we could provide. And so they did that in a way that strengthened their security around their PCI compliance obligations. And this is really where we got the feedback about better collaboration, faster innovation, because they have since built messaging services that they're now marketing to other companies. They've built more robust ways of processing payments. And really, they're finding that they've actually generated more value from these solutions than they expected to begin with.